Are you struggling to close deals? Cold outreach is wasting the time of both the buyer and seller at every stage, especially when sellers are using shallow and outdated data. Your organization can overcome these challenges with technology that translates comprehensive, high-quality buyer data into real-time insights. These deeper insights empower sales reps and teams to adopt the habits of top performers, which leads to better outcomes, like more pipeline, higher win rates, and larger deals. We call this deep sales. And we've built the first deep sales platform with the next generation of LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Right now, you can try LinkedIn Sales Navigator and get a 60-day free trial at linkedin.com/trial. That's linkedin.com/trial for a 60-day free trial. Let LinkedIn Sales Navigator help you sell like a superstar today. Just go to linkedin.com/trial and get started.
Hey guys, at the beginning of this week's episode, we go into an in-depth recap of the most recent Below Deck. If you want to skip through that, check out the show notes for timestamps.
Welcome to Criminality, the podcast we started because we love reality TV, we love true crime. We don't think it's a crime to like either one, particularly reality TV. Sometimes there's crimes on reality TV, which we're going to talk about. Hi, Melissa.
I just wanted to see how many times you could go through that circle. We love it.
It's an endless
loop.
loop.
We love it. We love it not. Yeah, I love it. Yeah. Rebekah, how are you?
I'm good. I'm maybe closer to being a yachty than I was yesterday.
Okay, Rebekah. So,
yeah,
we have to discuss the Below Deck of it all. You are apparently anti-Below Deck. I had no idea.
No.
You said it was boring. You said it was boring. That's anti-yachties.
Okay. You're using my words against me. I
Absolutely.
don't recall using the word boring. It's
You
like
might not
when
have.
Laura said she didn't say she was tired, and the scene of her being like, I was very tired. I'm very, very tired. Yeah, I think I said I just couldn't get into it, implying that it was boring.
Sure.
My mom loves Below Deck, something I think I've also shared. So
Yes.
Interestingly, last week I went out to visit my parents in their new place. They moved, and we watched one episode of Below Deck Australia. But it was like very background. I was definitely on my laptop kind of catching up on stuff and watching it while my mom watched it. And I was like, it's fun, but to me, there's never a storyline because I don't watch long enough, so I don't get to know the characters. I don't know the relationships. I don't know the drama. And to me, I would almost just rather watch an actual like dating hookup show because to me, this looks like just like a bunch of people who work together on the boat. And then sometimes there's like messy hookup drama, right?
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
So,
basically it.
You know, I just watched it and was like, oh, interesting, but I'm not interested. But then you texted me.
Yes, I told Rebekah, I am an old Below Deck fan. I loved when Kate and the captain, whose name is escaping me, that everybody's going to be mad about. No, the guy. Oh my gosh.
Sandy's not
I
a guy?
follow him.
Oh, Lee.
Sandy
Captain Lee.
Captain Lee. Thank you. So back when they were like a team, I loved it. Kate left. I kind of stopped watching it. But I did watch Below Deck Med, which had Captain Sandy. And also had Hannah. When Hannah left, I kind of stopped. But Aisha was on Below Deck Med. So
I love Aisha.
She is one of the characters. She's amazing. She's one of the characters on this year. So I wasn't watching Below Deck Down Under until Ben from Watch What Crappens said, this season's so good, like 2 weeks ago. And I was like, all right, I'll see what it's about.
Interesting.
Great season. Wild season. But then we get 2 episodes 2 nights ago. We've seen this preview of a door being slammed, but you don't know who slammed it. You hear producers knocking on it, and you have there's no other context.
Right.
Rebekah.
Well, so you tell me this, and I'm like, ooh, I think I might even listen to the recaps of Ronnie and Ben because I'm kind of interested to know what this is all about. And then you're like, you might even want to watch both episodes. I'm like, you know what?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I stayed up way too late last night watching the double hitter of both episodes with only the little context I had from last week, half watching the week before. So I kind of knew a little bit who was who, but I was unprepared for the emotional, like that was a very real experience.
It really was. So trigger warning if you haven't watched it. One thing Bravo messed up on, which I actually thought they did a great job, production, everyone in these episodes, but they did not warn people like
at the top
what it was. And I'm not like the biggest everything needs a trigger warning, but like this one seemed very obvious.
Yeah.
To need one. And so basically one of the bosun of the ship, which is the top deck guy, he is scum and he's a piece of crap, and his name is Luke. And Luke was interested in two girls, Laura and Margot. He seemed more interested in Margot, but Laura was like, I'll get with you or whatever. They get together and have relations on the boat.
That happened previously. Okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Then he's kind of like, I don't really like you. I always kind of liked Margot, who, by the way, week 1, he goes up to her and tells her to close her eyes when they're all out. She closes her eyes and he kisses her on the lips, and she's like, what are you doing?
I don't like that.
He's like, you've never had somebody do that? She's like, no, I don't like it. So he's already made it, like, she's very clear in this episode. Everyone's very clear. You can take over from here. I just wanted to give a little bit of the background.
No, that's so helpful.
Them.
Yeah, and watching it without all the background story was really interesting, because I was texting you, I don't know if Luke's a bad guy or this was an off night. Is this on par? It sounds like this is a bit, unfortunately, within his character, to do something like this. But this was so next level. So they go out. What I do know about Below Deck is that they work very hard when the clients are there, the guests, whatever they're called. Charter guests.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then they go out when the charter guests leave, and they're off night, and they go hard and they party in the town or city that they're in. That much I know. So this night was no exception. They all went out. They got extremely drunk, all of them, really stumbling.
Across the board, everyone.
Yeah, all of them, every single one. And amazingly, Aisha, in spite of being intoxicated, was so present and aware still of what was going on. And thankfully so, because she really intercepts in a big way. So Margot is really not feeling, she's just ready to sleep. She's on the verge of blacking out in the car, and she says as much. And Luke is just, wait, is it Luke?
Luke, yeah.
Yeah. He's just all over her and in her space and in the car ride home. And the chef, Zarina, and Aisha, who we just talked about, who's the chief stew. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got it.
We're you can't be all over her. You're not cuddling her later, tucking her in like he was saying he was going to. And he was almost trying.
Whispering it, right?
Yeah, he was almost
you
trying to get Margot to say something out loud that it was okay to sort of
absolutely
set up his entrance into her room, which I find diabolical. And so they get out, and then they go on to the boat, and everyone's either going to keep partying up in the jacuzzi or go to bed. But Margot's clear, I just need bed and some water. So Aisha's like, I'm getting you water, you're going to bed. And Aisha notices that Luke was just looking at her in a way that made her very uneasy, and felt like he was assessing her, consciousness. I don't know. And looking like a predator. And so she wanted to make sure she was in her room with her door shut. And then the lights go out on the boat, which is freaking ominous.
So I actually, to add there, I thought that he had done that at first.
Oh
which
my
also wouldn't have put past it, but because I don't ever remember that happening on a boat. But maybe it was weird.
What a scary thing to happen. So the lights are out for this minute, and then we see him running with just a towel on, no swimsuit, no underwear, and sneaking into her room. Mm-hmm. And then the producers intervene and start knocking on the door, and he's climbing up the bed to be on top of her. And then when the producers say, no way, Luke, you need to get out, you need to come down. So the door is open. We see what's going on. She's on the top bunk. She is out.
Yeah.
No response, sleeping. He starts to almost go to her side, look, I think what he was trying to do was say, we're cuddling and it's fine.
Yes, it's fine. Mm-hmm.
And he's asking her if she's okay. And she's just saying, I think she said sleepy time. She was not.
Yeah.
Engaged in a very present, coherent manner. And they told him to get out. And then he slams the door on the producers. But he was truly naked at this point, towel off.
Oh, yeah.
it was really bad, and they told him to get out.
Yeah, well, thank goodness for Aisha, and thank goodness for those producers, because they were very quick to be like, hey, try to be nice at first, and then we're like, you have to get out. So he like realizes he screwed up, goes into his room, locks the door, and is like angry at everyone.
Yeah, cursing.
There's so much into all of this, including the Laura of it all, who basically thinks nothing really happened. Like she was, I don't know how to even get to that part, but they kick him off for the night. Eventually he gets fired.
Well, Aisha goes right to the captain, Jason, who I'm into. I feel like he handled this so well. I can't judge his whole, season and
he's
leadership,
pretty great.
But he stepped up and he was so decisive and so like swift. I thought that was really important, because I think it could be tempting to be like, let's talk about it in the morning. Let's hear every side. And he was like, if that's what happened,
let's just let it go.
Right. And I think he was so right in getting him off the boat. They put him in a hotel for the night for the like emotional safety of everybody, and Margot in particular. But what was crazy to me was I texted you when I hadn't finished watching saying, but what about the Laura of it all? Because she's making me nervous, because she seems like an aggressor towards Adam. Yeah. And she was making me uncomfortable because he was saying no to her and her advances playfully, because that's what people do who don't want to hurt someone's feelings or embarrass them.
But I still thought it was pretty direct. Like he
Very
was like,
direct.
not interested. No,
Very
thank
direct.
you. And he doesn't like, sometimes you'll see on these shows where somebody then hugs the person or anything. He was like, no.
Yeah. And she wouldn't take no for an answer and tried to massage him later. And so that turned into a whole thing where she had to get talked to and then also fired. 2 firings.
I know. It was a big night for firings for sure. But the way Aisha and Captain handled it was beautifully. Like Margot ends up the next day. Yeah. Saying, it was my fault. I shouldn't have done this. I shouldn't have let him on. I shouldn't have. Yeah. And they're like, absolutely not. You have no reason to, the chef's whole speech was great. Like you should be able to do whatever and not worry about that.
Yeah. She said, you're allowed to be drunk.
Yeah.
Like what he did is what you're not allowed to do. And that's a really important fact to state and remind someone in that situation. And I don't think it's said enough in like shows like this. Like, it was really powerful. It was actually a really powerful episode. And here's where I'm struggling. I'm like, is this what it takes to get me into Below Deck? Like, I don't want to be a trauma magnet.
No, well, here's all of the seasons before, I think the reason this was so impactful is because there's always these men on these shows. And I say men because it truly is like there's always one skeevy one who everyone's like, you can't do this, you can't talk. Or a guest talks inappropriate to one of the chiefs. It's so gross. Ugh. But so to actually see something come of it and like taken care of, you're like, oh, finally, like, we've all been seeing this. I'm so glad that they did something. But I freaking love Below Deck. There's always something going on. The anchor's messed up. You've lost somebody. It's Chief Stew is fighting with somebody else. Okay. The chef can't cook. One year there was a girl who lied on her resume and she made nachos in the microwave. Stop. It was amazing. She was also racist. She got fired. Ooh. But people get fired so quickly on this show. They're just like, you're out of here.
You don't want to be in those close confines with like an untrustworthy person. So I get that.
100%. Well, one thing Margot said was she said something like, I'm so glad he wasn't here. Like they kicked him out. She's like, because I would have had to act like everything was okay.
Right. And that's not her responsibility. And and then we should wrap it up. But Laura's minimizing of what happened before she got fired was insane. I mean, it's probably actually a very common response, but it was cuckoo bananas.
It was when everyone's correcting her too, and even Margot's saying like, well, he shouldn't have done that. And she's like, well, I would have let him if he came in my room. And you're like, what are you talking about?
And it was such a weird response, like, oh, this could have been avoided if only I'd like made him happy and like kept him satisfied. I mean, it was a very victim blamey weird thing. It was so weird. And I'm like worried for her. Like, I don't think she's okay. But I have to say I'm in. I'm probably going to go back and like start the previous episodes before next week's. Oh, and then speaking of the problematic guy that's always on, it seems like they're bringing someone back whose name I've totally heard before, Joao or whatever. Is he terrible? And why would they bring him back after this kind of thing? Like after they did such a great job.
I feel like bosuns are just like this. But he, his first season, he was terrible. Then he was like good Joao.
Oh, redeemed.
Joao. So I don't know if, so I'm hoping he's still on his redemption thing, but who knows? He's not my favorite, but honestly, he's not the worst. And that's Below Deck for you.
Yeah. Well, I have to say thanks for the recommendation. And I really enjoyed watching it. If you don't watch Below Deck, this is a pretty good one. I think it's one not to miss. And if you do, then you know. Also, last thing about Below Deck, I think I may have mentioned this on the show before, but I somehow got on a mailing list for them to be cast as a charter guest. And that's also my weird issue with the show is I am not charter guest material. And it also makes me think the whole show is like fake because they cast these people. And I know it's TV, so of course they're real people and they are cast, but they can be real people. But those people do pay to go on those trips. And I know this from the emails, but they pay a very reduced cost because that's what the email says. It's like, this would cost $75,000, but you and 6 friends can do it for $35,000. And did me and my coworkers consider it? We did.
Absolutely. You have to.
Yeah. So I think that always made me, instead of making me more curious about the show, made me feel like this can't be good if they are asking me to be on it. I have no reason to be an interesting guest on that show. And seriously, don't know how I ever got on the casting list, but I am on it. And I will post the next time I get an email from them because I do from time to time.
It's great, but they get good guests on there, and they are paying a discount, but then they're tipping on top of that. So, like, last week they did $25,000 tip.
That was huge. I mean, I don't know what it normally is, but I was like, oh, dang, that's big.
Yeah. It can be like 15 to 20, I feel like, is what it is. And these people didn't even leave. Like, they had to go back to the shore. They didn't really get to do any of the fun stuff.
They had crappy weather. They didn't like their first night dinner, but the chef really redeemed herself. I'm really into her. I like her.
See? I'm telling you, this is what happens. You get on to like a good captain. So you have to have a good captain, Captain Jason.
I like him.
I even like looking
Chef's
at him.
kiss. Yeah.
A lot. And
very
a
rugged.
crazy neurotic chef. Like they have to be neurotic. That's
correct.
That's a key. Prefer no sexual harassment from the bosun.
Yeah.
But it happens more often than it should. Which is 0. It should happen 0. And then a good chief stew. And then all
and
the
a
other
villain,
characters.
Right?
Oh, there's always at least one villain. So I don't think they even do that on purpose. That's just the yachting industry, baby.
Yeah, and it's not adding up because I love boats in the ocean and anchor. Like, this is just...
What's your deal?
Yeah, I don't know. I think of some subconscious resentment. I don't know. I'm going to explore that, but more importantly, I'm going to start watching, so...
real quick before we change lanes, I would like to read something to you.
Please.
And it says, quote, "When I was visiting her, and I thought it was really boring, but at least I had a little context as to who the players are."
Oh, you're reading my text aloud on the air? Is that what's happening? Okay.
Boring.
That's the word I used. Wow.
It was the word. Yeah,
wow, Rebekah.
I found it.
Wow. Well, thank you for calling me out and holding me to account. That was unnecessary. Okay, fair enough.
Just like you were trying to get yourself out of it. I wouldn't say boring.
Yeah, I know. I really was
Only
like dying on that hill. Yeah. I guess that just really reveals a lot more about me, that I really like to have a pretty peak dramatic climax of near danger or actual danger to really feel invested in a show.
There you go.
Well, this is actually, in some ways, I'm going to try to parlay this into this story because you were talking about things we've seen on shows for so many years that now are finally being called out as like not okay. That is the theme of today's episode. So shall we get into it?
Let's do it.
Also, you don't know. For the first time in a long time, you don't know what I'm about to talk about. So great. So stay with me. You're going to know in like a few sentences.
Okay.
I'm also glad we're doing this episode now in the year 2023 because the year itself is significant to the story. In December of this year, just a few months, how scary is that? The central figure in my story today will be celebrating her 50th birthday. And 2023 also marks 15 years since the debut of the 2003 reality show that brought this woman into our collective consciousness. Now, before I get into that show, what it was, here's a reminder on the clues. Stalker, mail as in an envelope of paper, and judge.
Following.
Okay, so some more clues. Before this woman smized on the small screen.
Oh, It's over.
It's over.
Tyra Banks.
Yes.
Okay.
She catwalked runways around the world as a bona fide supermodel. She graced the cover of magazines. In fact, she was a literal cover girl. And she proudly holds the distinction of being the first Black Victoria's Secret angel and the first Black Sports Illustrated swimsuit cover model.
Wow.
You've already guessed it. Say it again.
Tyra Banks.
For the people in the back.
Yeah.
Talk about your feelings about her. How familiar are you with her work?
So I watched the first few seasons of I almost said America's Got Next Top Model, but whatever it was called.
Well, there's another America's show that she's on that we'll talk about later.
Oh, yeah. Oh, she's the host of something. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There we go. Yeah. So I loved that. Obviously, looking back on some of that, wow. Mm-hmm. It's very Abby Lee Miller in like the trauma of what was happening there.
Yes.
And her talk show I didn't watch, but I loved when they would play stuff on The Soup, like clips of her.
Gold.
They're
Yeah.
so unhinged is the only word for it.
It's the only
and
word.
In 2023, we could never. She walked so Wendy Williams could run, basically.
Yeah, that's a perfect setup. Yeah. So she's controversial, which you've touched on. And in today's episode, we're going to find her on both sides of a lawsuit and the courtroom. And you might leave with more questions than answers, because sometimes my episodes do that. You might think, is she a barrier-breaking bombshell or a maniacal model hell-bent on making waves to stay relevant? In this instance, Melissa, you, me, our listeners, we can flip the script and we can be the judge instead of Tyra. But before Tyra was the supermodel you and I know, and I don't know if we love, but no, she was just an aspiring model from Southwest LA. It was age 15 when she started considering modeling as a career, and she had the full support of her mom, who helped her get a portfolio together. She was tall, basically, and really pretty. But she does say she was teased and bullied in school for being so tall. When you're taller than the girls, taller than the boys. Do you know anything about it?
No, never heard of it. Never ruined my entire childhood. Totally normal.
Yeah, I truly never heard of it, but I do sympathize for friends who did have that experience. Yeah. Okay, whatever. So people always also called her weird looking. They called her giraffe. And when she went through puberty, she was already taller than all the boys. Then she said she woke up one day and she was 3 inches taller than she was the day before and 30 pounds lighter. To which I say, dear God, please, one wish tonight. Could I wake up in the morning and be 3 inches taller and 30 pounds lighter? Some people have all the luck. But clearly, Tyra and her mom knew something that her classmates didn't. She had potential to be a model with this unique look. So she went about trying to get an agent, and she was rejected from the first 4 agencies she tried out for. But LA Models did take her on for a year, and it was going well. But Tyra made probably the smartest choice she could have made, which was leaving them after 1 year and switching to Elite World Model. At just 16 years old, got a contract with them, and now she was just catapulted into the world of professional modeling, much more high-end, less local.
Right.
And she also managed to graduate high school, but shortly after she graduated, she knew that she wanted to make modeling and entertainment her full-time pursuit. Her first time at Paris Week, she booked 25 shows, which was pretty much unheard of at the time. She wasn't even 20 years old. She ended up living in Milan because she could, and why wouldn't you? She had a very successful European modeling career, but eventually she wanted to come back to the US and look for more commercial opportunities. So in addition to modeling contracts, she was finding success on TV. She played one of the many faces that comes up at the end of the Michael Jackson video, Black or White. And this is what we texted about. I said, I can't tell you why, but I'm rewatching the Black or White video, Michael Jackson's video. You know, at the end where no one, like, it's like shoulders up.
Yeah.
And nobody has clothes on. It's just their faces, and they're all different, like, ethnicities. She was in that video, as was Macaulay Culkin, which was your maybe guess.
My guess was Macaulay Culkin.
Yeah, so close. So Tyra did a bunch of music videos in the 90s. That was like her first not modeling on TV gig, but her first real acting job was actually on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And ooh, I just love this clip so much. So if you watch clip number 1, I want you to see that, and then we can discuss.
You wouldn't have left me here alone. None of this mess would ever happen. That's it. I didn't come all the way here from Philly to hear.
Well, it's gonna have to be it. Don't mean I live in McGrail. Don't mean I live in McGrail.
You need to
Excuse me. You know what? You ain't never gonna change. I'm getting the last word. Oh, no, you not. Oh, yes, I am. Damn.
Thoughts?
She did great. Like, she stayed at the energy and everything. It was like, I would have thought she was just an actress.
I know. That was her very first TV gig. The show was #1 at the time. I mean, that was like the TV show. Did you watch? Like, when
I didn't. It was, I was a little young for that.
Oh,
I wasn't really,
gosh.
but a little. I
Well,
was
that
like
makes-
3 years too young.
I would not have mentioned this. That just like really. Oh,
I'm
God.
kidding. I'm
No,
kidding.
you're not.
But
No, you're not. You're not.
I
kidding.
honestly
you weren't
didn't
interested
watch
because you were
it.
too young. You were like, it didn't appeal to you.
Sorry, I was still getting my diapers changed when this.
Okay.
Have you ever had that moment when you're leaving the house and you wonder, did I lock the door? Or worse yet, you start spiraling and you imagine all the what ifs. I used to feel that way all the time, but it wasn't until a few years ago when I heard about a break-in just a few blocks away that I realized I needed to really step up my home security game. And now I can spiral about the what ifs on things that don't matter, like reality stars, instead of the what ifs of home security. We've had Simply Safe protecting our house for the last few years now, and it's a total game changer. With Simply Safe's Fast Protect monitoring, I know within 5 seconds if something's actually up, and the lifeguards can actually speak to intruders to stop them. That's faster than a reality TV star can throw a drink. One of the things I really love the most is you're not locked into some over-the-top 90-day fiancé level contract drama. Simply Safe is actually affordable as well, less than $1 a day with no hidden fees, so it's easy to love. It's no wonder they've been named Best Home Security Systems by U.S. News and World Report for 5 years running. Whether you want to install it yourself, it really takes less than an hour, or have a professional handle it, Simply Safe is as easy as flipping channels between Chimp Crazy and The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. So why wait for the drama to happen? Get Simply Safe and know your home is covered just like I did. Protect your home with 50% off a new Simply Safe system, plus a free indoor security camera when you sign up for Fast Protect monitoring. Just visit simplysafe.com/criminality. That's simplysafe.com/criminality. There's no safe like Simply Safe.
This episode is sponsored by AutoTrader. There's a good chance you're driving right now. Look around. Safely. What do you see? Cars. Lots of them. And guess what? They're probably on AutoTrader. Whether you're into timeless classics or the latest trends. Did somebody say solar-powered, eco-friendly, vegan, leather-wrapped, aromatherapy-scented, disco ball-equipped, self-driving car? If you see it on the road, you can likely find it on AutoTrader. Big cars, small cars, blue cars, new cars, used cars, electric cars, and one day, maybe even flying cars. With millions to choose from, buying a car becomes a whole lot easier. See it, find it, AutoTrader. Find your next car on autotrader.com.
Settle down. The way I loved that show, I can't even tell you.
Yeah,
It was Blossom.
I love it for
and Fresh
you.
Prince of. Did you watch Blossom?
I have seen Blossom, but I think I watched it when it came on
Our
like
Monday
USA
nights
a few
were
years
different.
later.
Yeah. You were
Monday nights
probably-
were nothing for me. I was
Yeah.
a TGIF kid.
Sure. I mean, weren't we all? But wow. Well, I wanted to include that for relatability, but I'm sure I've just excluded half our audience, if not more, because they're all babies and I'm a grandma. But I just thought she had a very undeniable watchability.
Yeah, it was great.
So it's no surprise she blew up the way she did.
Totally.
She talks openly about the racism she experienced. She was constantly called too ethnic, too black, not black enough, weird looking, the things she heard in her childhood, she even heard from casting people. So she had to constantly be pushing the boundaries on the fashion industry. And she was also told she was too curvy. If you recall, she has always had a really amazing curvy figure compared to the other, especially I'm thinking of like the Victoria's Secret angels, who were much more like angular and straight. She had
Moss-ish.
Yes, it was the Kate Moss era, right? And so she was constantly trying to set a new standard of beauty for herself and the industry. So this experience is what fueled her desire to create the show America's Next Top Model, a show that she wanted to nurture and guide new talent into the predictably unpredictable world of modeling. In a 2017 interview, so this is years and years after the show's been running, she told Entertainment Weekly that she really empathized with people who didn't fit the cookie cutter standard of beauty, and she wanted to tell millions of girls around the world that they were beautiful, which is really amazing.
Yeah.
And I think that is what she set out to do. But as you kind of suggested and hinted at, the reality of that reality show, America's Next Top Model, is that it was anything but nurturing. And the show ended in 2018, but old seasons were re-released during the pandemic. And just thousands of watchers either rewatched or a new audience watched. But now we're all watching through a very different lens.
Yeah.
And what we're seeing and what people are saying is that this was incredibly problematic. And I mean, like, let me count the ways. I'm going to in a minute.
Exactly.
So for anyone who hasn't seen the show, which is hard to imagine if you haven't even seen a clip, but it's America's Next Top Model. It's a modeling competition. The show gathers a group of young, aspiring models from various backgrounds, puts them through a series of challenges and photo shoots to test their modeling skills. Tyra is one of a panel of judges. Those judges rotate, but the fixtures were always this English fashion photographer, Nigel Barker, Jay Alexander, who was like the runway coach, and Jay Emanuel, who was the creative director of the show. And the model whose photo won from the challenge as best photo was always like the winner, and then someone was eliminated.
Right.
And the winner, also the challenges escalate in absurdity pretty much throughout the each season, and then throughout the years. It's like they had to kind of keep outdoing what they did previously. Yeah. And they're competing for a $100,000 modeling contract, a CoverGirl spread, everything a hopeful model would want. So one of the recurring segments in the show is Tyra Mail, which was one of our clues, mail. So it's kind of like on The Bachelor when the date card arrives and everyone like gathers around. So whichever girl sees the envelope come under the door or get dropped off screams Tyra Mail, and then they all scream Tyra Mail, and then they open it and there's a riddle or a clue that has to do with their next challenge. So unhinged was the word you used for her talk show. I think it also applies to moments on this show, like when Tyra and the judges told a contestant that the gap in her tooth was too wide and not marketable. They said her makeover would consist of removing the gap. She didn't want to do it, but they told her she had to if she wanted to compete. So they compromised and decreased the gap, but didn't remove it entirely. Like as in dental surgery. So something I didn't mention was, do you remember the makeover part?
Yeah, I was just like, as you were talking, I was thinking about that. Yeah.
So it's always early in the season when they're down to like 10 or 12. If a girl comes in with long hair, it's going to get buzz cut. If she comes in with blonde hair, they're dyeing it black. They do these very extreme changes to get the girls comfortable with having no personal autonomy and basically like bending to the whim of what other people think they should look like. And this was a really extreme example of this tooth gap thing. So compare that with the next model who was told her tooth gap should be bigger because it would make her look more like Lauren Hutton. So with her, they filed her tooth gap to enlarge it. Yes. So teeth are pretty subjective. I mean, if you want to model, you probably do have to change things about your looks to appease a client or a casting agent. What about your skin color, Melissa? Surely that would be considered something that is a contestant's identity that they would never alter for a reality show challenge, right?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, they did that twice.
I'm now thinking of...
I know.
I'm thinking of Tyra in the fat suit now, and so there's just no limit to what could be done here.
Loves these charades or whatever you want to call them. I mean, it's so much worse than that. In an effort to celebrate diversity, Tyra had Asian and Caucasian models go into full face and body paint in deeper shades to portray women from different cultures for a photo shoot. So she had Caucasians go Native American, Asians go African. It was across the board, equal opportunity racism, I guess you would say. In retrospect, she has said that what they thought was a celebration of diversity turned out to present very negatively. And she apologized years and years later and said, I'm sorry to anybody that watched Top Model and was offended by the pictures because they didn't understand the real story behind them. Or even if you did see the whole episode and you were still offended, I truly apologize because that's not my intention. My intention is to spread beauty and break down barriers. This is the weird disconnect of Tyra Banks to me, is that like she finally, it took a long time. She didn't apologize for years. For years she said, we are celebrating women from around the world. And They're all beautiful. And I think that is actually what she meant.
Right.
So we have the benefit of time now on our side where we can look back on these things and we have such better language to understand and communicate why something like that is so wrong.
Right.
But unfortunately, it was just one of several more things they did on the show that was deeply problematic, including this moment where a woman on set, they had to do this very sexy jungle-themed photo shoot, and she had a bunch of male models around her, but because it was set in the jungle, they were wearing like Tarzan type clothes, meaning very little. So the men's like groins were covered and that was it. And they were all very close to her. And one guy was moaning in her ear and like bumping up against her leg with his body. And she was really uncomfortable and she was unable to focus on getting the right look for the photographer. And more importantly, she was really uncomfortable. So she asked the photographer and the production just to stop for a second. And like she was getting uncomfortable. She needed a minute. She explained privately to a couple of people on set and they said, you know, deal with it, focus. This is being a model, push through and do it. So she does. And she doesn't feel like her pictures come out well because she was so distracted by this man who was really encroaching on her private personal space. So when it comes to the elimination rounds, they look at her photo. She stands before the judges, and that's a big part of the show is evaluating these photos. And I would love to tell you that they responded in kind and really empathized, especially Tyra, who's maybe been in that situation before. But if you go ahead and open clip 1 that I sent you.
Like with your feminine wiles, like, boy, you best to back up before I knock you upside the head. But you do it in a fun way where he knows to back the heck up, but it doesn't really put static in the air because then it makes you uncomfortable.
Feminine wiles.
Feminine wiles. What I hear is also like, you know, confront your aggressor, but make it fun. Like, she was like, keep it cute.
Fashion.
Yeah, it was really dismissive and off. And I like to think in 2023, a different response would occur.
Yeah, that was weird.
That was so weird. There's unfortunately more. In one particularly edgy photo shoot, I use that in quotes, the contestants were styled to look like unhoused people. Their set location were the actual streets of Los Angeles, where they cast actual unhoused people to be in the photo shoot with the models. But the twist, the fun twist, was the unhoused people were put in designer clothes and really nice hair and makeup, and the models were made to, they literally put dirt on their face and like styled their hair to look crazy and put designer clothes on, but they were grungy, like flannels and ripped.
Right. Oh.
And then they took pictures.
Oh, do you want to document this? This is terrible.
They documented this and they did this like in public on the streets. And I think in their minds they talked about like how groundbreaking it was, and it was like honoring the beauty in these unhoused people, which okay, yeah, but also kind of really exploiting them. And the whole thing looked so crazy because they're like, it's about them shining, not you. So the model is like cowering, like it looked so wrong on every single level. Coincidentally,
oh my gosh,
one of the unhoused people really captivated the cast, the crew and the producers of the show, and she got cast for a future season of the show. Her name was Isis King, and she was actually the first transgender model on the show. So as you can see, despite really good intentions to celebrate things like diversity and break barriers, Tyra had a lot of missteps and really managed to tick a lot of people off along the way at the like tone deafness of some of these challenges.
It seems very shock value. Like that's her whole thing. Like, we'll do this thing, but how do we make it in your face? And that's kind of where she misses the mark, I think.
100%. And I think that only increases as her career progresses. Like we see that over and over, and it's like she's constantly trying to like outrate her last high ratings. And it's unfortunate because, you know, when you create that way, it's at other people's expense usually. And her own. I mean, it doesn't make her look great either, obviously. So none of this is criminal. It's all really, really bad and borderline criminal. But before we move on into the actual legality issues in this episode, I have to play a meme probably everyone has seen, but it comes from this moment, a pop culture relic,
Totally.
if you will. So go ahead and play that next clip.
And you come in here with a defeatist attitude. I don't have a bad attitude. Maybe I am angry inside. I've been through stuff, so I'm angry.
Yes,
Everybody-
but this is not. Be
Okay,
quiet,
but
Tiffany.
everybody
Be
knows
quiet.
That's what is
I'm
wrong
not
with
trying
you.
to-
But you're not.
Stop it!
I have never in my life yelled at a girl like this. When my mother yells at this, it's because she loves me. I was rooting for you. We were all rooting for you. How dare you? Learn something from this. When you go to bed at night, you lay there and you take responsibility for yourself. Because nobody's going to take responsibility for you. You roll in your eyes and you act like this because you've heard it all before. You've heard it all before. You don't know where I come from. You have no idea what I've been through. But I'm not a victim. I grow from it and I learn. Take responsibility for yourself.
The way you hear the shoes when somebody walks off makes it so much
The
worse.
clunk, clunk, clunk echoes. I feel like Tyra got the inverse of this. Like, you know how she was talking about her mom? It's like, you know, when your mom says she's not mad, she's disappointed. I feel like Tyra's not disappointed. She's just mad. Like, it's so ragey. It's so weird.
Yeah.
The poor girl.
I know. The whole thing was so awkward. I don't know. It just feels like if you did love her, maybe you could say, you're out. I'm going to talk to you after, except Tyra has a show to produce and she wants ratings. So
I think she didn't feel Tiffany responded the way she wanted. And so she was going to like incite a bigger reaction. And that also is just so manipulative. Mm-hmm. So again, all of this really terrible, but not criminal. So let's get into what actually was criminal or illegal right after a quick word from this week's sponsor. Okay, so maybe America's Next Top Model was a 2000s fever dream, and we enjoyed it before we knew better. Now we know better. But what makes Tyra qualified to be on an episode of Criminality? Well, Melissa, a few things. Despite her antics on that show, it still brought Tyra even more fame and opportunities, including her own talk show, which you rightly pointed out was also completely unhinged. That ran from 2005 to 2010. Also, America's Next Top Model started in 2003 to 2018. So a big chunk of that show, she was doing both of these shows, which is incredibly, that's just a lot.
yeah, that's like Ryan Seacrest levels.
It is
doing too many things.
Yes, that's right. I could go on about the most bizarre moments of that show, but we literally don't have time in this episode, but it could be, you could do a whole podcast actually, like a Tyra Banks greatest hits or lowest hits or hellish hits.
Yeah.
I think Tyra's hosting style is supposed to come off as vulnerable and authentic. Like she likes to be real, but it usually lands as like unhinged and very uncomfortable for people to watch. The audience in her Tyra Banks show always is like, are we laughing? Are we crying? Are we like, they're very unsure.
I love
and that
it.
is very, it's great. People love it. I've only ever seen clips. I've never watched her full talk show like you.
There's one clip of Tyra and it's come up on TikTok and we'll have to play it on our page. It's her when she has everyone wearing a shirt with their sexual identity, like straights, gays, and then questioning, and it's people with question marks and they raise their hand. It's wild. It is absolutely wild.
So we're the gays. And we're the straights. All right. And do we have some in-betweens? Are these our in-betweens?
She loves an audience participation. There was one where they all had robes on. She comes out in her underwear and decides everyone should be in their underwear. I'm like, well, everyone's not a Victoria's Secret angel. And I'm sure these people consented and signed a waiver, but like still. So last clip, I can't move on without just showing one moment from the Tyra Banks show where a desperate single mom brought her teenage son onto the Tyra Banks show to ask his questions about sex. Trigger warning if you're listening with kids. We're going to say sex. So the boy finally, after the mother cajoles him, says, okay, I guess I just want to know, like, what does it feel like when you put it in? Like, says it. Like, just this poor kid says it on TV. And then please play the clip to hear Tyra's response to a vulnerable teenager who wants to know what sex is like.
It feels awful. It feels like fire and damnation. It feels like nails hitting your skin with a hammer. And then after that, you just go blind.
What does eternal damnation feel like? It feels like
Needles.
damnation, she said.
And I don't know. That was a lot. That was a lot.
I thought like parenting in the 80s and 90s was rogue. This is like not advised. So that's the Tyra Banks show. So if people weren't catching her reign of terror at night on America's Next Top Model, they could see it during the day on the daytime talk show. She wasn't for everybody, clearly, but people loved her for her realness, and she had super fans. But some fans took their love for Tyra too far. And this is the scary part, and sincerely I'm saying for celebrities, when you have a fan who turns into a stalker, which is the next clue. In early 2008, there was a producer at the Tyra Banks show who answered the phone, and a man named Brady Green was on the line. Brady wanted tickets to watch a taping of the show in Los Angeles because he was going to be on a trip there. He was from Georgia, but he was going to be in LA. The producer said, "I'm sorry, our production moved to New York. We don't do it in LA anymore, so better luck next time," basically. Hangs up, thinks nothing of it. But before he gets off the phone, right before hanging up, I should say, Brady Green says, "Well, I'm coming to New York, and I'm going to slit your throat."
What?
Yeah. It gets like 0 to 100 in like the first, just straight out the gate. Brady Green goes on to send 5 dozen roses different times, at 5 different times, to Tyra with a card. And one of them says, "When I see you, I love you, Brady Green." Open to interpretation, but probably putting them on edge because they realize this is the same guy. So when he showed up to New York City to get tickets, he took a bus there from Georgia. In 2009, Tyra and her staff were rightfully concerned. Tyra reportedly hid in her dressing room while staffers called the police. Brady fled the studio before the police arrived, but it didn't take the police long to find him. And because of the credibility of these previous interactions, they really did take it pretty seriously to go find him. They found him at a nearby McDonald's where he was sitting holding a bag, and the contents of the bag inside were 2 magazines with Tyra's face on the cover. Later in court,
And a marker for her to sign it?
No, weirder. Okay. But just weirder. So his lawyer would argue in court later, like, well, it wasn't just Tyra magazines. He also had a Bible and a book, Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. Did you read that in high school?
This makes it so much worse.
It makes it so bizarre because I think those were meant to like mitigate the magazines, right? Like, I'm just reading the Bible and Man's Search for Meaning, like, which he probably found in the Tyra magazines. Yeah. He was arrested and charged with stalking, harassment, and criminal trespassing, and the case actually went to trial. Green's attorney portrayed him as a harmless fan and said Banks courted admirers by giving them so many ways of reaching out to her and cultivating this image of approachability. Amazing victim blaming again, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Tyra obviously had her own lawyer who told a different story, saying this was a complete invasion of her privacy and workspace and that he'd threatened the team prior, and that increases the risk of a threat, and they didn't know what he was capable of. You don't know when it goes from super fan to an actual like violent perpetrator. Tyra would testify in court and said, "I don't know. I don't fear for like my life, but I feel very vulnerable. I fear for my safety, and I don't know what could happen." It comes out in the trial that during the interrogation, Brady Green tells the police that they had a thing, he and Tyra. He said, "I sent her flowers. I sent her cards. Do you think I should plead no contest?" And then he went on to say, "And are you sure I should keep talking because I've got satellites watching me and recording us?" So it's revealed and is pretty sad. Like, we're dealing with someone with, you know, mental health issues, and the whole thing is really sad. But again, you can't really take that lightly because
there's still a risk.
There's still a risk. That's right. And there's been so many celebrity stalker cases that have ended in violence. And at this point in time in 2009, they know that.
Right.
So he was found guilty of all charges, but the judge decided not to give him jail time. He got 1 year probation and had to attend a treatment program for stalking, which I'm actually glad to know exists. I hope it
I didn't know it
helpful.
existed.
I know. So that's good, I guess. He explained to the judge at the sentencing that his interest in her wasn't even romantic. It was her episodes on the Tyra Banks show about racism that really spoke to him because he was a victim of racism growing up in Georgia. All of which is probably true. Like, that could be where the admiration developed. It's just still really scary. So that's the end of Tyra's criminal court proceedings. But if there wasn't at least one lawsuit, could this even be a criminality episode?
Never.
Exactly. Whatever people think about Tyra's hosting and judging style on America's Next Top Model, it didn't exclude her from being cast as a host on a big competition show, another one called America's Got Talent. She loves an American competition
Wait,
show.
and then she has another one. Okay, I'm listening.
What's the other one?
I'm Dancing with the Stars. She took over for a season.
Yeah, Dancing with the Stars. I couldn't even include that.
Yeah, there's too much.
No lawsuits as far as I know there, but possible. But she got herself into some trouble with America's Got Talent before the show even aired, like after she'd filmed, but before it aired. So here's what happened. I don't watch America's Got Talent, do you? I've seen it. Obviously, we've all seen clips.
It's
like,
one of...
It's
yeah,
Simon
it's one of
Cowell
those my
and-
in-laws have it on.
Yes, my parents will have it on and I will watch.
Mm-hmm.
There's the buzzers. There's a big audition in front of like a massive studio, and it's a
Right.
range of talent. It's not just singing.
But singers are always who wins. I
I
just
know.
think they should not allow singers, to be quite honest with you.
Or don't
Every
allow
other
the
talent.
random, obscure fire thrower yoga people, because how is that going to, like, how do you compare that against someone who sings amazing?
Exactly. So take the singers, put them on a singing show, and then
Right.
all your other talents. Call it America's Other
Got
Talents.
Other talents, right.
Yeah, there you go.
Duh. Solved. Okay, so here's what happened when Tyra filmed her first season, which I think was season 17 of America's Got Talent, but her first season, but many seasons into the show. So you know how the host is like, this is on American Idol to all these shows. The host is like on the wings of the stage watching the people audition, and if there's a loved one connected, they're like, oh, they're doing great,
Hugging
or
them and,
yeah, fingers crossed, and what's the judge going to do? So she was doing that with a minor, a young girl whose parents were performing a song that was about their daughter. So
Okay.
I'm using words like mother, daughter, husband, wife, because this lawsuit against Tyra Banks and America's Got Talent production company, Marathon Productions, is filed anonymously because they want to protect the identity of their daughter.
Got it.
So this couple's singing, and the song is about their daughter, and it insinuates that she was an accident.
Oh.
I don't know how else to say it.
Wasn't planned.
Unplanned.
Yeah.
Thank you. Allegedly, Tyra jokes with Mary Doe. So it's John and Jane Doe file the lawsuit on behalf of their daughter, Mary Doe, is how
Sure.
they're referred to in the lawsuit. She's on the wings with Mary, kind of teasing her a little bit and saying in a less insinuating of a way and more of a real explicit way, like, oh, so you were an accident. Something to that effect.
Right.
To the daughter. Now, the other thing the suit doesn't say, was this girl 17 or 7? We have no idea. So we're talking a young girl or a teenager. Either way, probably not cool. And she was, but again, it's all alleged because this is all.
It never aired. This never
I'll
aired.
get there.
Okay, sorry.
So she also apparently grabbed her shoulders, shook her, and pulled her head back, and was just being very, like, what Tyra's team would go on and say was like playful.
Yeah.
What the family said was completely inappropriate, like physical abuse. So after this happens, the husband and wife claim that the daughter was under such emotional distress from hearing the parents sing the song. She was mortified. Tyra's antics made it all worse, that they all agreed this could never air. And so despite having signed a waiver acknowledging the very real possibility of, quote, public humiliation, they filed a lawsuit that Mary entered a contract with the production company without the parents' consent. So what they're saying is the producers intervened at some point and were cajoling her to, like, did I say cajole twice this episode? I've like never
That's
said
the
that word.
first time I've ever heard it.
I think I said it
didn't hear
earlier
it
this
another time.
episode. I am
Oh,
like,
gosh.
where does this word, where did it come from? They tried to get this response from the girl to make the moment bigger than it was. And
Okay.
the parents are claiming that the producers and Tyra enhanced this moment, made it bigger than it was, and made it worse, and that the daughter fell into a deep depression at the thought of this song being played, of this footage coming out, of her being on there, of her parents being on there, all of it. The court filings allege that she was verbally abusing a minor. They said that she was accidentally conceived and that she willfully and with malicious intent intimidated a harmful and offensive physical contact with the daughter, referred to as Mary Doe, as I said. So the suit also chronicles Jane Doe's audition process for America's Got Talent. So essentially, the parents believed the producers stepped in with Tyra to manipulate the situation to make it even worse. There's no money attached to this, and I don't know if that just wasn't reported, undisclosed, or if they really didn't care about the money. I think there was just a little regret and fear of this being publicized, and they just really wanted to control it from being aired.
That's so weird. It seems like get mad at yourself for bringing your daughter. Like, has she never heard this song about her? Was nobody at school going to say, do you know what that song is about, if she didn't figure it out? That seems
it's like they had a way too late realization that this was probably a terrible idea. So Fremantle Media, I know, the parent company of the Marathon production, issued a statement saying the suit is being dismissed. Settlement talks are underway and the dispute will be amicably resolved. So what happened is it was actually dropped entirely, but there was an agreement that it would never air. And that is a bummer because I wanted to play you that song. Like, what?
Absolutely.
In your mind, what genre do you think?
Country.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just curious what you imagine. I did too. Very 100%. Folky country, yeah. But they're from New York, which maybe doesn't jive with that, but I don't know. We'll never know.
Yeah, that's so weird. I can't wrap my brain around it. And saying Tyra is in front of everyone abusing the child, I just feels
Tyra
very far-fetched.
Yes, but, Tyra is many things. I don't think on camera, with everything they had in place, I don't think she would do that. But we did talk a lot about her intentions versus what happens.
True.
So I can't say for sure. But she probably could have been more restrained with the person, especially since they were under the age of 18.
Yeah. This seems like an HR thing that they needed to figure out ahead of time.
Prior, right? And it's also like these shows, they do choose these people to make fun of them. And then, I guess sometimes it backfires. So the official statement from Fremantle Media says, we take great care of all acts that cross the America's Got Talent stage and their families. Tyra has been an incredible addition to America's Got Talent with her vibrant energy, maternal nurturing spirit, and we look forward to continuing to watch her positive influence on the show.
Hilarious they called it a maternal instinct.
Flip that script. Yeah.
Oh,
they're like, that was maternal nurturing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Better than her mom who didn't even want her. Read between the lines. I think they were definitely, I think if it was really wrongdoing on Tyra's part, that they would have let her go. And they would have made if they really felt that a minor was possibly harmed.
And it's on tape.
And these parents are going to sue, that could lead to criminal charges. They would probably make a different statement and get rid of Tyra, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But we will never know because it was dropped and we don't know. And last but not least, one of her very own top model contestants slapped her with a lawsuit. Former contestant Angela Preston sued Tyra and other producers of the show for breach of contract, asking for $3 million in damages. Now, this is kind of confusing because she is a 3-time America's Next Top Model contestant. So she was a semifinalist. Oh, they call season cycles. I don't know if you remember that. It's cycle 1, 2, 3.
What cycle are they on?
Right. So she was a semifinalist on cycle 12. She placed in the top 4 on cycle 14. And she was the original winner of America's Next Top Model All-Stars. So she clearly had an amazing track record on the show. She won, but she got disqualified after winning the All-Stars. She claims that she fully won, but when the judges found out she'd briefly worked as an escort between times on the show, so after she was on the show the second time, before she was on the third time, she was an escort professionally. When the judges found out, they disqualified her, and this happened when she was down to the final 2. She says she would have won, but she's also listed as a winner, so it's very confusing. If they hadn't eliminated her, so not only did she lose the contract and the prize, but she says she lost these future opportunities that winning the All-Stars would have meant, hence the $3 million in damages. She also alleges in the lawsuits that the models were subject to cruel conditions, highly controlled by producers, and she reveals this kind of very behind-the-scenes fourth wall thing where They were called, they had to be on ice, which means they couldn't eat or talk when they weren't filming because they didn't want to miss anything. So if cameras were not up, they could not eat, drink, or talk. So they were on ice. I don't know, but I kind of want to use that. Like, just, hey, keep it on ice, kids. Like, I'm busy. So the show responded with this quote. As noted during the broadcast of America's Next Top Model finale, information about Angela was learned after production wrapped on that cycle and led to her disqualification from the competition. We are confident that her lawsuit has no merit, and in fact, it was dropped in 2018. So I don't know if you watch interviews with Angela Preston, she says that the rules do not state anything about that, and that if it was not while you're filming or engaging in something that whatever they've deemed as, I don't even know if it's illegal, but something they don't want you to be doing, a breaking of their set of conduct.
Like a morality clause?
Maybe while you're on the show.
Got it.
But this was between, so she's finding this loophole and she feels that it was unfair because either she won or she was going to win, but this other girl won in her place. And there is conflicting, like Wikipedia says she won, but she says they gave it to the other girl, but maybe they publicly said you would have won, but we're going with her because of this and like shamed her about it. I don't know.
I mean, that sounds on par.
That's kind of their MO, right? Is, you know, they're not really big on like gracious endings for anyone. And it's worth noting, well, that's the end of the lawsuit and criminal aspects. The legacy of the models on that show has not been stellar. A part 2 of this episode could be a dozen stories of women whose lives got undeniably worse after being on the show. 3 have died.
Oh, wow.
And none
That's
of
like
them.
as many on Celebrity Rehab.
Yes. So one was murdered, one was drug related, and one was breast cancer. All tragic. Oh. But there is a very dark aura around the women that end up, whether they won or didn't. There's some really sad stories about the contestants. And I think that combined with looking at this show in retrospect, it's like maybe modeling competitions aren't great for people.
Maybe not, no.
You know, I'm not even sure like any talent competition, but I take that back. I mean, look, I don't know. This is where
you're going through something. You're talking yourself in a circle.
Well, I don't know. I know that some of these like have the potential to change people's lives. Like we've seen, you know, American Idol. I don't know, but it's the entertainment industry and so much goes wrong and people hanging all their like hopes and aspirations and dreams on these programs is scary.
Your like future depends on what Janice Dickinson thinks of you. That's dark.
That's dark and completely unfair. Like
so unfair.
Like she should not have that power.
You forgot to mention that one of the other terrible things that happened to contestants is one of them married Christopher Knight.
Say more.
The Brady Bunch, Adrienne Curry, she was first season winner. She married Christopher Knight from the Brady Bunch. And they had a show called My Fair Brady, and I loved it.
My Fair Brady, you've brought that up here before. I didn't realize the Next Top Model connection, or I forgot. Yeah, that's cool.
How they ended up on the Surreal Life together and ended up dating and got married.
What a reality show vortex we just entered. Well, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of moments that I'm like, where can I fit this in? Like the time Tyra gifted Miley Cyrus a framed photo of herself for her 16th birthday. She gave Miley had this huge public 16th birthday, like a huge celebrity bash. Tyra was there, gifted her a picture of her at age 16. She's like, I relate to you. We're so the same. And Miley had to like respond and be like, wow, this is amazing. I couldn't ask for a cooler gift.
Wrecking Ball is what she like took to the picture.
It inspired the whole song.
Yep.
She's just, I got a little Paula vibes. Like after your episode on Paula, you know what I felt was that nervous, what is she going to do? What is she going to say? I get that with Tyra too. A little less than Paula, but it's there.
Paula is going to be on a show next week. Oh, did you know that? She's going to be on Crappy Lake.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I saw the preview. I was like, I have to tell Rebekah this. But yeah, like they show her, she's just like standing in the wings. And I just can't wait for her to come out and do her Her little crab hands.
Oh my gosh, the crossovers are getting kind of out of control.
I know.
That is so interesting. So where do you land on all this? Like with Tyra and with America's Next Top Model? I don't want to like pin you to anything. I'm just curious.
Oh, I'll say this, but then I have something to add. I am not a big fan of hers. I feel like she's just not everybody's cup of tea. I think she is very into herself, as shown by the Miley Cyrus photo thing. I think we have new lenses to look at this, and I think we're probably looking at it correctly now. But we didn't then, and I agree with what you said about it being uncomfortable before, but not having the words to understand why it was uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, because that wasn't like a feel-good show. It was like, this girl's life is ruined. But I'm going to watch again next week.
I know.
Yeah, so anyway.
Yeah, and I also want to make it clear that I don't think we can like put all responsibility of what was going on in culture and fashion and modeling on Tyra. Like, she was one player in a don't hate the player, hate the game is what I'm saying. Yeah. She's just a cog in the machine. And while I do think she has personal responsibility, she alone can't bear the weight of like,
of course,
making really bad, decisions in the 2000s.
And she grew up in it. So she's like showing what she's been a part of. And so she did start so young. So I do have some grace with that. Like, models, you don't eat. Like, that's just what she knew. Whereas now we're like, you don't go around saying that.
No.
Anyway,
unless
so
you're Yolanda.
Oh man, as anytime food comes up on anything, I am just waiting for somebody to post the meme of Yolanda with the almonds, like the Lizzo thing.
It fits. It works in so many settings. It's true. Wait, I feel like you wanted to add something.
Oh, all I was going to say is Mandy and I recorded something for a show a couple months ago, and it's an unsolved thing, and it's cool, and it'll be out in a few months. But at the end, the guy was like, "What do you think?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm not saying what I think happened." I was like, "You will not have us on record." I was like, "Mandy, don't say anything. We're not saying what happened." So I can't wait for that to be like in the preview of like, so shocking that this person can't even say. But I'm like, absolutely
I won't
not.
say.
I was like, turn the cameras off and I'll tell you. I was like, got to take this mic off. But anyway,
that's really funny.
When
and
you
really
asked me that, I thought the same thing. Yeah. But I'm sure they're going to
know.
use that. And it's me just mumbling and saying all the theories in my head. So they're going to be like, clip that one and that one and that
right.
one and that one.
Oh my gosh, I know. That's how it works. But this
True.
is just, again, I didn't know where to put so many things. Like, it's just an embarrassment of riches. Tyra Banks YouTube videos. Did you ever see the
so
one where
good.
she pretended she played a prank on her audience, the daytime talk show, that she had rabies?
Yeah.
She's like, comes out, is like, "Sorry, I'm limping. I got bit by a dog. I'm okay. I got a rabies shot. Actually, can we pause? I need water." Then she drinks the water and then starts foaming at the mouth.
Yes.
Barking and attacking unsuspecting audience members. No one knows whether to laugh or be scared or cry. It's horrible to watch, but I watched it 6 or 7 times.
I blocked that out of my brain. Like, until you said that, I totally had forgotten. But as soon as you did, I was back in that place of watching her like face.
I looked it up
absolutely
intentionally, hoping, I'm like, maybe it led to a lawsuit. Maybe someone was like really damaged by that. So I was like, darn.
Well, I'm wondering if I was. That was crazy.
It's like, you can't even, who thinks of that?
Honestly, these are all her ideas. I will say that 100%. These are her ideas.
That's what I mean. Like, who is she? Like, what is going on in there? A lot. So anyway, that's the Tyra Banks, part of the Tyra Banks story.
Yeah, that was really good. I learned a lot. I definitely had no idea about the stalker thing.
I had never heard about that. And that all happened in New York. It was Supreme Court, Manhattan case. Never even heard about it.
Super scary, though, for sure.
Yeah, very.
And that's such a like pop culture. She's like a pop culture icon for sure. Like,
for sure.
She's just a part of this time, and nobody can take that from her.
Just by the by, I was telling my husband that we were recording tonight, and he's like, "Oh, what episode is it?" Like, and I'm like, "How nice of you to ask." It is mine, and I'm doing Tyra Banks. And he's like, "Oh, she's cute." And I was like, first of all, cute's not the word I would use to describe her.
No.
And then he also kind of said it in like a surprising, like he's so, like it was a hot take. And I said, babe, she was a supermodel. Because he said he went on to say something that qualified it, like something, I forget what he said. And I was like,
is it girls with big 5 heads? Because she's the one that I took that from, that she's a 5 head.
No, he just said she's not my normal type. And I don't know why I'm talking about this, but I just was like, don't make it sound like you're so unique for thinking she's cute or hot or whatever it is you're like pretending. He was speaking in euphemisms.
Now, my husband did get obsessed with Kelly Clarkson for a while, and
so did mine.
Did I tell you about this?
I'm pretty
sure
I would
we just
talked
put
about this.
the least flattering pictures of her on his desktop every day.
Yeah, my husband.
I mean,
I'm sorry, Kelly,
too. Yeah, it's weird, but I mean, I get it.
No, I know, me too, and I get Tyra Banks too. But he made it sound like it was so crazy, and then he was like, "But she's just not my type," and yet you still have it in you to be attracted to her. Wow, fascinating. Like it's not hard.
Oscar on The Office and Andy, whenever when they're talking about Brad Pitt. If Brad Pitt tried to kiss me, would I let him in that whole scenario?
Yes. Yeah, like
Brad Pitt has to kiss you. That's like he's dying to. That's exactly what he sounds like.
You can tell that's perfect. I will. You can bet on it. Well, thanks for sticking through that. It was a weird one.
It was good.
Thanks. Are you watching anything great? Because I'm so glad we talked about Below Deck, because now we can talk about the other things we're watching.
Yeah. So actually Below Deck was my thing. I was very excited to come in with Below Deck. But when that was all happening, I was like, Rebekah, I got to tell you what I was watching. But I'll give you something else. I was doing better, but this isn't a good one. Okay. TLC, of course. OCD. Cars.
Is this one you think I know? Because
there's actually a new season on HBO Max now. Like they're literally going back and seeing old things. Well, cars, toilet paper, blow dryers. Is it dressing like a baby?
Oh, My Funny Fetish? I don't know. I'm just guessing.
My Funny Fetish. I wish it was called that.
Well, you said dressing like a baby, so that's what comes to mind.
But I just love the alliteration there. My Strange Addiction. And I think it's like My Strange Addiction.
I was going to get
Yeah, that's what you're going for. Yeah. So I again planned to not have to share this one. Thought I had the Below Deck. My Strange Addiction is back. If you remember, there were people who like one lady eats toilet paper constantly.
She just rings a bell.
Eats it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. The car one. So I have to this day wonder what happened to this guy who has a car. He has a car that he has relations with. And there is a picture. Let's see. Can you see it? This has stuck in my head forever.
Why would you give that to me?
Because it's been in my head for like 15 years.
You gave it to me.
I've wondered what he's been up to. And I have good news.
He's moved on from cars?
Mm-hmm, he's now with a woman.
Oh, okay.
And a man.
Okay.
And I think another woman. One's a car, one's a truck, and one's a jet ski.
Wait. What?
The old car, he got in a wreck, and now he's not with her anymore. He's not in his relationship with her.
These pronouns you're applying to these inanimate vehicles.
100%.
Okay, I wasn't following.
Not people. There's not a human to
I
be.
was excited.
Thank God.
I'm like, not only did he find a love, he found
no.
polyamory.
I think he killed the first one to get with the new one because he loved it so much, and then all of a sudden he's like, got it in a wreck. They show the picture. Wreck wasn't bad, and he's like, had to let her go. But here's my new girlfriend and my new boyfriend, and then also the jet ski. I can't remember what gender it was. So sorry. Anyway, so if you've been wondering, like me, what he's been doing for the last 15 years since you were traumatized with that picture, he's doing the same thing, but now he's spreading his seed to many vehicles. There might have been an ATV. I don't even know. Sorry.
Segways, scooters. This could get weird.
Don't give him any. It could get weird.
New options.
It could get weird. The worst part is he brings the car to... I mean, there's news stories, but I realized I can't even really watch the show because one of the couples was
Why, Melissa?
We drink our own urine. They're drinking their urine on screen. I can't.
That's a medical condition. I'm sorry. These people eating weird things and drinking things they shouldn't. That's like something is wrong and deficient. That's not.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I'm sure it's partially
But how could
psychological.
how could they both be obsessed with it?
Okay, that's the psychological part. I don't know.
Yeah,
That's weird.
it's like, no, you two both just do it and nobody else wants to smell your pee breath. And so they're you're stuck
Melissa.
together. That's what it is.
It's too gross.
I don't choose the shows choose me. So that's so hopefully next week or next time I'll be in a better headspace, which I was doing better with Below Deck.
Yeah, but then we went in this hoarder's
not on
slide,
purpose.
and now you're going backwards.
Okay, well that's enough of these weird things that I just need a band TLC in my house for like a week and maybe I'll recover. I won't. But in the meantime, Rebekah, what are you watching that's not deeply, deeply disturbing?
I actually have something that doesn't qualify as that, which is great. But wait, just ban TLC until the new season of Sister Wives.
Oh,
Because then I'm going in. Going in.
Can't wait.
Okay, so I had two, couldn't decide, and I'm going with the more fun one, even though it might not be new.
That's fine.
Because it's a great tie-in. So, Bravo, Luann, Yacht.
Oh, it was the new
Yep.
Tim Gunn, whatever the show was
Yep.
called. I can't
Project
remember.
Runway.
But yes, Project Runway.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So my daughter and I are watching Project Runway All-Stars season, the current one on Peacock. So fun, except Tim Gunn is not host, and he is so sorely missed. That man is such a genius and an angel. And sorry to anyone who disagrees. I don't want to yuck anyone's yum. I just miss Tim Gunn so much. But it was so fun because last week's episode was a Below Deck challenge. So it was the real client challenge, which is when they bring in a real person and they have to the designers have to create a look for a very specific purpose and person. And it was new uniforms for the yachties.
Yeah.
And, I had just watched that one episode at my mom's. Didn't know I'd be watching two more just days later. So I watched, and I was mostly excited because they brought Luann in as one of the guest judges. Here's what surprised me. She wasn't great. She actually seemed nervous. She seemed unsure of herself, and she didn't add anything. I was shocked. And I'm very curious if anyone watched and if they agree, because Luann is confident. Luann is next level. Like, the ego is in the door before she is. But I think being next to like actual fashion icons like Nina Garcia and, this panel of judges who can talk about fashion. And that's not why those guest people are there. They're there to just give their opinion and be fun and like have their own little take. And she was just like, oh yeah, it's fashionable and fun or something. And I'm like, and functional. I don't know. I just didn't think she like brought anything. And that was disappointing.
Yeah, that is. Question, is it because there were no statement necklaces?
Probably. There weren't any, actually. That's a fact. So she probably lost interest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Nothing's too shiny. Yeah. I saw Aisha, like just a still of her that I thought that must have been what that was for. But
yeah, they were great. And actually the designs were not great, but that's a very tough challenge. But one of them, Brittany's, for anyone who's watching, did a one-piece man romper for the guy who's the maintenance person who does like the engine. Who is that?
On Below Deck?
Yeah.
There's the bosun, the engineer. There's an engineer.
Yeah, he was an engineer.
Okay.
Yeah.
They don't show him on the show. Like sometimes they'll mention
That
their
makes
name,
sense.
but you don't get to see them. Mm-mm.
Okay. Well, they brought him in for the challenge, and what she made for him looked so cool, and like it was just really cool. So some of them were really nice. And it was very fun. And I do see that the yachties have like very fun personalities and like they make good TV. I mean, and you would love it. Captain Sandy was on.
Oh, I actually don't like her, but
I liked her with Captain Lee.
I liked watching her, but I don't like as a human. She kind of annoyed me.
She asked
I wouldn't
for
want to work
bling, and that I feel like, are we still saying bling? Also, is that appropriate on a yacht uniform? And she got a really bad outfit. It was really, really bad.
Really?
Anyway, yeah. So that's what I was watching, and it was super fun. And that's just been a really fun Friday night watch.
I love it.
Yeah.
To add to the Below Deck thing, sorry from our beginning conversation, one thing I did want to add is I was thinking, like, how would Lisa Vanderpump have handled this situation?
Great question.
How boys will be boys would that have been? Like, it would have been horrific.
Oh, darling.
Right?
But he didn't, he would never hurt you.
Exactly.
He's just a little baby.
A little broken bird, in the words of Ronnie and Ben.
Exactly.
Yeah, so anyway, I don't know.
I think
that
that's such a good
thought.
parallel. I didn't even think of that, but that's exactly right. The enabling on these shows, there was no, and I think the difference is the working condition is so different. It's so close quarters. I don't know, they take it really seriously as opposed to those restaurant jobs. It's like, just feels like a big joke. Like, it's for TV.
And they all go home to themselves and stuff,
right.
so it's a little,
right.
but
I think
still.
But still, unexcusable, and I really am just so blown away by how they dealt with it on a professional level, but also just the personal level, the way the two girls just were really there for Margot and like supporting her. I just was like, gosh, we should all, if we found ourselves in that kind of situation, like, that's all you could hope for, is having someone that had your back and really like showed up for you. So
For sure.
amazing. Well, it's your turn. Tag your it. Tyra Mail.
Okay.
Your
Yes,
turn.
I forgot about that. Okay, so my 3 clues, I don't expect you to get this in the nicest way. I don't think you watched this. So
Whatever.
it would likely
no
not be in
nice-
your wheelhouse.
There's no not nice. There just
No.
is me not guessing.
Here we go. Fedora.
Fedora.
I went all in with
an
this.
F?
Fedora, like, yes, wearing it. Chill. House.
I want to say Big Brother.
You are on the right track with that one.
Okay. That's all. That's as much as I got.
Yeah. So if
It was
you know
just
it's
an
Big Brother,
instinct.
you'll be able, if you're a Big Brother fan, you'll be
Never
able to
seen a whole
figure this
episode.
out. Okay. Yeah.
So
but
I won't.
We'll
But
see.
people
We'll
will.
see how it goes.
Listeners will.
Yeah. So anyway, that's what I have. And I think it should be good. It's kind of wild.
Ooh, fun. I'm excited.
Yes.
Well, as always, this was super fun. We'll do it again in 2 weeks. And in the off week, you can listen to Melissa on Moms and Mysteries.
And on that every day, you can visit RebekahSebastian.com. Just do
Sure,
it
why
until
not?
she's pressured to update things on there. Just she'll have to make a move then.
Yes.
She sees a bunch of engagement on her website. And then we'll be back in 2 weeks with a brand new episode that's Big Brother based.
So
Yeah,
fun. We
can't
haven't
wait.
done that yet. Mm-hmm. Very cool. Well, thanks everyone for listening.
Have a great week.
Bye.